to discuss the time domain output. So, we will continue that topic, that is step response time domain solutions. Fine. Previously, we derived the transfer function for the second order system, that is represented by G s equals y bar s divided by f bar s equals k p divided by tau square s square plus 2 zeta tau s plus 1. Now, we will consider a step change in input variable. Input variable is f t. If we consider step change with a magnitude of a, that means f t equals a, and in Laplace domain we can write this as a divided by s. Fine. Now, introducing this f bar s expression in this general form of transfer function, we obtain y bar s equals k p a divided by s tau square s square plus 2 zeta tau s plus 1. Fine. Now, we will take the inverse of Laplace transform of this expression to obtain output in time domain, I mean y t. Now, we already considered 3 different cases depending on the value of zeta. One is overdamped, second one is critically damped, and third one is underdamped. So, we will get 3 different expressions of y t for these 3 different cases. So, first we will write the expression for the case of overdamped response. In the case of overdamped response, we have zeta greater than 1. Fine. And the expression is y t equals k p a multiplied by 1 minus exponential minus zeta t divided by tau cos hyperbolic root over zeta square minus 1 divided by tau into t plus zeta divided by root over of zeta square minus 1 sin hyperbolic root over zeta square minus 1 divided by tau into t. Fine. This is the expression for the case of overdamped response. The derivation is not shown here, but if we take the inverse of Laplace transform of this equation, we get this expression for the case of overdamped system. Fine. The derivation is left for the students. Similarly, for the in the second case, we consider critically damped response, where zeta equals 1. and the expression of output in time domain we obtain by inverting as y t equals k p multiplied by a 1 minus 1 plus t by tau exponential minus t divided by tau. This is the expression of output y in time domain for the case of critically damped systems. Fine. For the case of underdamped response where 0 less than zeta less than 1, we obtain the expression for output y in time domain as y t equals k p multiplied by a 1 minus exponential minus zeta t divided by tau cos root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau into t plus zeta divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square sin root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau into t. This is the expression of output y for the case of underdamped response. We can write this equation in this form where y t equals k p a 1 minus 1 divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square exponential minus zeta t divided by tau sin omega t plus phi. Rearranging the expression of y in time domain, we get this last equation where the radian frequency omega omega equals root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau. This is the expression for radian frequency omega. Similarly, the expression for phase angle phi we obtain as phi equal tan inverse root over 1 minus zeta square divided by zeta. This is phase angle. This is phase angle. Fine. So, these are the three expressions of y in time domain just by inverting the equation of y in S domain. Now, if we graphically represent the outputs of these three y expressions, the plot looks like this. T by tau, and in this direction we are considering y t divided by a k p. Suppose the final steady state value is 1. So, the output is like this. This type of response we obtain for the value of zeta 1, that is suppose 0.5. Fine. This type of dynamic response we obtain for the value of zeta say 0.5. In another case we get the response like this. This type of response we get, suppose for the value of zeta equals 1, and another type of response we get like this for the value of zeta suppose 2.0. This is a zeta 3 and this is zeta 2. So, obviously, here zeta 3 greater than zeta 2 greater than zeta 1. Fine. So, this is the case of underdamped where oscillations are there. When zeta 1 equals 0.5, that is the case of underdamped response and oscillations are there. In the second case, we have considered zeta 2 equals 1, there is no oscillation and that is the case of critically damped response. And in the third case, we have considered zeta 3 equals 2, that is overdamped response and there is no oscillation. Usually these two cases zeta 2 and zeta 3 are characterized as sluggish. The responses under critically damped and underdamped response are characterized as sluggish. Fine. If you reduce the value of zeta 1 then 0.5, you will get more oscillation. Fine. So, these are the responses of y at 3 different cases. Next, we will discuss the underdamped response in details. Almost all underdamped responses in a chemical plant are caused by the interactions of controllers and process units. Almost all underdamped responses are caused in a chemical plant due to the interactions of controllers with the process units. That is why we are more interested to analyze the underdamped responses. Fine. Now, we will draw the response. Suppose this is time t, this is y t by suppose k p. We are considering here a equals 1. Fine. Now, this is the new steady state value. Response is like this. the time corresponding to this is say represented by T p. Sorry, we will use another suffix, that is T r. Fine. T r is rise time. This is the first maximum peak. The corresponding T is, or corresponding time is T p, that is peak time or time to first peak. T p is peak time or time to first peak. Fine. This quantity is suppose B. And this quantity is suppose A, and this one is suppose C. This is the period represented by T. So, here T is the period. Fine. And these are indicating plus minus 2% deviation, and corresponding time we will represent by T s, where T s is the settling time or response time. Fine. Now, you will know of these times T r, T p, T s along with the quantities A, B, C one by one. So, first we will know about the rise time. It is very obvious from the figure that it is the time required for the output y to first reach its steady state value. So, the definition of rise time is it is the time required for the output y to first reach its final steady state value. Rise time is the time required for the output to first reach its final steady state value, and it is very obvious from the figure. Fine. So, what about the peak time? It is the time required for the output to reach its first maximum value. It is the time required for the output to reach its first maximum value. What is the response or settling time? Response or settling time, it is the time required for the output to come within some prescribed band of the final steady state value. It is the time required for the output to come within some prescribed band of the final steady state value. Fine. Next term is the decay ratio. Decay ratio. Decay ratio is defined by the ratio of C and A. Decay ratio is defined by the ratio of C and A. We have the expression of y in time domain for the output y. Fine. Now, from that equation we can easily find the expression for this decay ratio, that is, so the expression of decay ratio is equal to exponential of minus 2 pi zeta divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square. We have the expression of y in time domain for the underdamped response. From that expression we can easily derive the expression for decay ratio, and that is this one. Decay ratio equals exponential of minus 2 pi zeta divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square. Another term is there, that is overshoot. Another term is there, that is called overshoot. It is defined by the ratio of A and B. Overshoot is A divided by B. Fine. And the expression for the overshoot is, mathematical expression for the overshoot is represented by this equation: exponential minus pi zeta divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square. This is the expression for overshoot. This expression also we can derive from the time domain expression of y. If you see the expression of the overshoot and decay ratio, is there any correlation between these two? Decay ratio is the square of overshoot, or we can write overshoot is root over of decay ratio, square root of decay ratio. Fine. Now, overshoot increases with decreasing zeta. If you see this expression, it is clear that overshoot increases with decreasing zeta. So, first remark we can make, that is, overshoot increases with decreasing zeta. Fine. What happens when zeta becomes 1? There is no overshoot. Fine. So, overshoot approaches 0. Overshoot approaches 0 when zeta approaches 1. we made one plot comparing the responses of different zeta values. In one case we considered zeta equals 0.5, in another case we considered zeta equals 1, and in the third case we considered zeta equals 2. And you can see that plot where zeta becomes 1, there is no overshoot. Fine, it is very obvious from this mathematical explanation. So, next we will discuss the period of oscillation. Period of oscillation. For an underdamped response, we got previously the expression of radian frequency. For the underdamped response, we got the expression for radian frequency previously, where omega equals root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau. Find this equation we have used in the expression of y in time domain for underdamped case. Now, we will consider f cyclical frequency, unit is cycles per unit time. So, if the cyclical frequency is f, then the period is 1 by f. If f is the cyclical frequency, then obviously the period becomes 1 by f. Fine. So, what is the radian frequency omega? Omega equals 2 pi f. Again this equals 2 pi divided by t. So, we can write t equals 2 pi divided by omega. Substituting the expression of omega, we finally obtain 2 pi tau divided by root over of 1 minus zeta square. F is the cyclical frequency, then we know the period equals 1 by f. Now, this is the expression for radian frequency omega equals 2 pi f, means 2 pi divided by t. Finally, we can write the period equals 2 pi by omega, and here we substituted the expression of omega, and we finally get the expression for the period. Fine. Next, we will cover the natural period of oscillation. Natural period of oscillation. Fine. In this case, zeta equals 0. In this case, zeta equals 0. That means, we observe the natural period of oscillation for undamped systems. Fine. Now, we know the transfer function of a second order system, that is k p divided by tau square a square plus 2 zeta tau s plus 1. This is the transfer function of second order systems. If we consider zeta equals 1, then we get k p divided by tau square a square plus 1. Considering zeta equals 1, we get the transfer function k p divided by tau square a square plus 1. We can write this as k p divided by tau square divided by s minus I 1 by tau s plus I 1 by tau. Fine. So, two poles are involved and they are complex conjugate poles. Fine. Can you observe the position of the poles? This is the real axis, this is the imaginary axis, there is no real part. So, both the poles lie on the imaginary axis, one is here, another one is here. The two poles are involved here and for both the poles there is no real part. Therefore, both the poles lie on the imaginary axis. So, what about the natural period what about the natural frequency omega n? We know the expression of omega, that is root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau. We know the expression of omega, that is omega equals root over of 1 minus zeta square divided by tau. Substitute zeta equals 1, then we will get omega n. So, omega n equal to 1 by tau. Here you just substitute 0, 1 minus 0 divided by tau, that means this is 1 by tau, which is written here. Fine. Then the period we can write by this way, T n equals to 2 pi by omega n, that means 2 pi tau. Agree? So, this is a expression for natural period of oscillation, T n equals 2 pi tau. Fine. Fine. Next we will discuss the multi capacity processes as second order systems. Next we will discuss the multi capacity processes as second order systems. We can obtain overall the second order dynamics if we connect two first order systems in series. Fine. So, we can obtain a second order system by connecting two first order systems in series. In another way, if we include a controller with a first order process, then we obtain the second order dynamics. So, in the first option, if we connect to first order systems in series, we obtain second order dynamics. In another case, if we include a controller with a first order system, we obtain second order dynamics. Fine. So, these two options we will discuss in details. So, first we will consider the connection of two first order systems in series. We will consider two simple liquid tank systems. So, how we can connect the two liquid tank systems in series? This is tank 1. Tank 1. Input to this tank is Fi. Cross sectional area is suppose A1. Height of liquid in the tank is suppose H1. The output of tank 1 enters tank 2. This is tank 2 and this flow rate is suppose F1. Here resistance to flow is say R1. In the tank 2 we consider the cross sectional area A2 and liquid height H2. The stream which is coming out from tank 2 that has the flow rate of F2 and resistance is suppose R2. Fine. So, in this schematic representation two first order systems are connected in series. Now, how the tanks interact to each other? You see tank 1 affects tank 2, but tank 2 does not affect tank 1, because the flow rate to tank 2 inlet stream to tank 2 is the outlet of tank 1. So, what about the interaction? This is one way interacting system. Tank 1 affects tank 2, but tank 2 does not affect tank 1, and we will use the term for this type of systems, that is non-interacting system. Non-interacting system. Fine. If the two liquid tanks are connected in series in this way, we will use the term non-interacting tanks. In another way also we can connect the two tanks. This is tank 1, cross sectional area is A1, height is H1, inlet flow rate is Fi, outlet is F1 and resistance is R1. Second tank is placed here, cross sectional area A2, height H2, output is F2, fine, and resistance is here R2. This is the second scheme in which we have connected the two tanks in series. Now, what about the interaction in this system? this is the case of both way interaction. I mean tank 1 interacts tank 2 and tank 2 also interacts tank 1. So, for this type of systems we will use the term interacting system. So, for this type of systems we will use the term interacting system or interacting tanks. Fine. Now, we will try to derive the overall transfer function for the case of non interacting tanks, and in the next we will consider for the case of interacting tanks. Fine. So, now our topic is non interacting capacities. And we will discuss the general case. Fine. So, two tanks are or two first order systems are connected in series. Those two first order systems have the transfer functions of suppose Z1 and Z2. So, this is one tank Z1 and this is another tank Z2. Input is suppose F1 bar S, output of the first order system is Y1 bar S and output of the second first order system is Y2 bar S. Fine. So, if we consider both the systems are first order, then what is the modeling equation for first system? I mean for G1, the modeling equation can be written by this equation: tau p1 dy1 dt plus y1 equals k p1 f1 t. So, we can write this is the modeling equation for say first capacity, which has the transfer function of G1. Similarly, for the second capacity, which has the transfer function of Z2, we can write the modeling equation as tau p2 dy2 dt plus y2 equals k p2, this will be y1 t. Fine. This is for the second capacity. So, for the first capacity, the time constant is tau p1, gain is k p1, output is y1 and input is f1. For the second capacity, tau p2 is the time constant, k p2 is the gain, y2 is the output and y1 is the input. So, using these two modeling equations, it is straightforward to derive the transfer functions. So, we can write the expression for transfer function for the first capacity Z1s equals Y1s divided by F1s, that will be k p 1 divided by tau p 1 is plus 1. Fine. This is for the first capacity. The expression of G 1 we can obtain by taking Laplace transform of this model. Similarly, for the second capacity, we obtain the transfer function as G 2 s equals y 2 bar s divided by y 1 bar s equals k p 2 divided by tau p 2 s plus 1. This is for second capacity. Agree? Now, our objective is to find the overall transfer function. Our objective is to find the overall transfer function. If we consider this is a single system, so what will be the overall transfer function? That will be y 2 bar s divided by f 1 bar s, is not it? The overall transfer function will be if we represent by z naught s as z naught s equals y 2 bar s divided by f 1 bar s. For the overall system, y 2 is the output and f 1 is the input. So, we can write this as y 2 bar s divided by y 1 bar s multiplied by y 1 bar s divided by f 1 bar s. Agree? So, this is the expression for overall transfer function. This means z naught s equals z 1 s multiplied by z 2 s. This is the transfer function z 1 and this is the transfer function z 2. So, if we substitute the expression for z 1 s and g p s, z 2 s, we obtain g naught s as k p 1 divided by tau p 1 s plus 1 multiplied by k p 2 divided by tau p 2 s plus 1. Fine. So, we can write this expression as k p prime divided by tau prime whole square a square plus 2 zeta prime tau prime s plus 1. We can write this equation in this form: g naught s equals k p prime divided by tau prime whole square a square plus 2 zeta prime tau prime s plus 1, where tau prime whole square equals tau p 1 tau p 2. Fine. And 2 zeta prime tau prime equals tau p 1 plus tau p 2, and third term, that is k p prime, equals k p 1 k p 2. Fine. So, this is the tau prime expression this is the expression for 2 zeta prime tau prime and this is the expression for k p prime. Now, we will make some conclusions. So, what about the overall response? Is that first order or second order? The overall response is second order. So, it is proved that if two first order systems are connected in series, the overall response becomes second order response. Fine. So, we have considered two first order systems and we got second order response. Secondly, what are the poles in the overall transfer functions? One pole is minus 1 divided by tau p 1, another pole is minus 1 divided by tau p 2. If we see the overall transfer function G naught S, we have two poles, one is minus 1 divided by tau p 1, another one is minus 1 divided by tau p 2. So, what about the overall response? Overdamped or critically damped or underdamped? We have two distinct real poles. So, the response is overdamped response, but in some cases tau p 1 may be equal to tau p 2. In that situation, the response is critically damped. Fine. So, if two first order systems are connected in series, we obtain overdamped or critically damped response, but never underdamped. Fine. This is the second note. Third one is, we have connected two first order systems in series. If we connect n number of first order systems, what will be the overall transfer function? Suppose this is Z 1, this is Z 2, like this way we are connecting n number of systems. This is F 1 and finally, we are getting Y n S. Fine. So, overall we can write Z naught S equals Z 1 S, Z 2 S, Z small n S equals K p 1, K p 2, K p n divided by tau p 1 S plus 1 tau p 2 S plus 1, like this tau p n S plus 1. Fine. So, if n first order systems are connected in series, we obtain the overall transfer function like this. Okay. Thank you.